everybody. Welcome to Tea and Talk Tuesday. We have quite a topic to talk about. When I was preparing for this, I was like, dang, this topic is a little bit on the heavy side, and I try not to go there because we have enough heavy topics in our lives. But I think this one is really important because, especially if you're a parent or around children, if you're a teacher or a children's ministry worker or an aunt or uncle, grandparent, and you have any kind of influence over children, I think this is a really important topic. And major disclaimer, I am not an expert. I didn't study child psychology. I am just kind of a mom in the thick of things. I have 4 kids, 9 and under. And so I haven't even really, lived the whole mom life in terms of grown kids and all that kind of stuff. So everything that I say is just kind of speaking from my experience so far and just from my heart and things that I want to talk about and share. So if I say something that's like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about, you're probably right. I might need a little more experience and some wisdom from that experience. So just be gracious when I share, because I just want to join together and encourage each other with this certain topic. Even if I say things that sound like I'm, well, not judging. I won't be judging at all. If anything, I'm judging myself. But I guess we should just get started. This disclaimer is way too long. Okay. So grab your cup of tea or coffee or whatever you want to drink, sit down, put the kids down for a nap, and just try to relax and let's chat. If at any point you want to jump in with a question or a comment, make sure it's nice. Don't be rude. Then yeah, go for it. I will try to pay attention to what's coming on the screen as I'm doing my little spiel that I have prepared on my clipboard, my little notes, like I'm so prepared. So yeah, just jump in and let's chat it up. I don't want this to just be a one-way conversation. I want to hear from you guys as well. So the topic that we have today is so weird. It's called Children Will Listen. It's like, what does that mean? My kids don't listen. Oh yes, they do. Okay, I am involved in a musical theater production. We call it the Dayspring Gala or the Eden Arts Gala. And it's an annual gala where we fundraise for my kids' school, the school where I used to teach. And we put on this whole musical theater production. We call it a night at the Tonys, and it always has a theme. And we just perform all of these different numbers from musical theaters and musicals, and from Broadway to just Disney musicals and things like that. And we have a blast and we give it our all. So the reason I'm telling you all this is one of the songs that we're working on right now is from a play called Into the Woods, which I'm actually not really familiar with. But I am acquainting myself with it because one of the songs we're working on is the finale. And the finale has another title that's called Children Will Listen. And if you just listen to the song on its own, it's kind of bizarre. The whole idea of the play is very fantasy. A lot's going on. It's like a mix of, I actually don't really even know. So if you want to know more about it, you should go look it up. So I won't go into that. But some things were kind of coming to my mind, making an impression on my mind and my heart recently with my own children. And I was kind of pondering the idea of what our kids hear us say, what our kids repeat. And it was something that I was like, I think I might want to have a conversation, a tea and talk conversation about this. And then at the same time, I'm having these rehearsals with the ensemble for the gala, and we're singing this song, and one of the lines in the song is, it's careful the things you say, children will listen. And it really hit me, like the children will listen. It's like, wow, that really sums up what I have been pondering in my own mom life recently. I was like, whoa, is this a coincidence, or is God kind of like, yeah, let's talk about this. So that's why I wanted to share this. So I'm gonna start with some funny stories like I like to do, and then we're gonna get kind of serious and talk about some like big issues. Oh man, what am I doing? Okay, so we all know that if you are ever in the presence of children, if you're a parent or a caregiver of any kind, or you're just around kids, we know that children never seem to listen when you are speaking to them. Like, get your shoes on, we need to go now. 5 minutes later, no shoes are on, and now their socks are off. And so it's like, why did you hear me say that? Do I have to say it again? You say it again, and then like their socks come back on, but the shoes aren't on, or like the shoes are on, but now they're like in the bathroom or whatever. And there's just like, why? I'm actually thinking of one specific child of mine who just can't seem to like, the words are in the air and he just like can't, but yeah, but he's just a little man. So that's just kind of like a thing that, I mean, okay, I'm not gonna get into the whole like men don't listen, but yeah, they don't. They just have selective hearing. So yeah, my little guy who is about to turn 6, the words come out of my mouth and into the air, and they just fly around his head and don't actually penetrate any way that sinks in. And I have to tell him things like 10 times. And sometimes it'd be, look at me, and look at me, I'm the captain now, like, look at me. So yeah, it's really hard to get him to listen when I'm talking to him. But if we are talking not to our children, somehow they can hear you a mile away. You're having more of a grown-up conversation where it's not for their ears, or you're talking about something that has to do with dessert and you say the word cookie or cake or donut, and all of a sudden from an entire floor away the kid comes running down. Did you say cookie? It's like, how did you hear that? I wasn't talking to you. And you don't hear me when I'm 2 feet in front of you telling you to put your shoes on, but you heard me say cookie from a mile away. So that's just parent life, and any life around children, that is how they operate. And the girls seem to grow out of it, the boys don't. Change my mind. All right. So with that being said, we have a general idea that like kids just don't listen, but they do. And I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna tell you 2 funny stories, and then I'm gonna tell you like a little more of a serious story that maybe go, whoa, kids really listen, like young kids really listen to what you say. So my 2 funny stories are, one is from when I was little, and I have to change the name here just in case. I don't want to offend anybody if this person or somebody who knows this person is watching. I don't think he would really care. He'd probably think it was funny, but I'm just gonna change the name just in case. I don't want to embarrass my mom either. Okay, so backing way up to when I was really little, my mom was a teacher. She taught for 28 years. We talked about that last TN Talk when we were talking about back to school. And so my mom was a teacher for 28 years, and she has so many stories, just all the stories up and down. They're hysterical. They're, how did you survive that long? Anyway, so I'm gonna tell this story. She doesn't even know I'm gonna say it. So Mom, if you're watching, this one's for you. When I was really little, she either had a boy in her class or had a boy in her class by a certain name, and she was so struck by this certain name that his parents gave him that it was something that she just talked about. And my mom has never been and is not one to talk about people or poke fun at people or anything like that. She's very really good about that kind of thing. So this just like one time in her life where she just thought it was very intriguing to the point of kind of ridiculousness that she had a boy in her class whose first name and last name rhymed. first syllable, a one syllable first name, one syllable last name, and they rhymed. So I'm not gonna say this child's name, so I'm gonna make up a name. I was actually like really thinking like what name is like similar enough that you get the idea, but it's like not anything like his name. So we're gonna call this boy Frank Plank, okay? You get the idea of like, that's interesting. So my mom must have, and I didn't remember like exactly what she was saying about this boy. I just remembered his name, and I remember her talking about him. Maybe I overheard her talking to like a friend or my dad. And so I'm gonna stop there and then go back to it. So I'll just reiterate that this boy's name was brought up enough in my household that I remembered it, and it stuck with me. So I just remember this boy, Frank Plank. Years later, I think I was probably like 11 or 12 years old, something around that age, something like that age. And we went to a family gathering, and one of the family members, kind of like a distant family member, who's very sweet, young adult at the time, probably in her early 20s, she was there with her new boyfriend. And she went to introduce us to her new boyfriend, and she said, this is my boyfriend, I was about to say it, his real name. She said, this is my boyfriend, Frank. And before she could even get out the second, before she could even finish his first name, my mom recognized him even as a grown-up. She taught elementary school, so this was years later. And she said, Frank Plank. And she just like couldn't believe, she worked at an hour away from where we were. So it was just like, whoa, small world. And she was like, she enjoyed this kid. He was a good kid. And she was like, oh my gosh, she's like Frank Plank. And then when she said, then he started to place her, and they're like, oh my gosh, they start to realize, oh my gosh, you were my teacher when I was in elementary school. And so they're laughing and stuff. And I'm standing there and I'm remembering his name, and my wheels are starting to turn. And all I could think was, yeah, I remember you talking about him. And I didn't think anything of it because in that moment, I couldn't remember what the topic of the conversation was. I just remember my mom talking about this kid, like on more than one occasion, mentioning his name. So me being young and stupid, and I wanted to like join in the cool conversation, I was like, yeah, like right in front of him and the family member who he was dating, I said, yeah, Mom, I remember you talking about him. And before I could finish my sentence, she grabs my arm and squeezes it with all of her might. Not to an abusive extent, but just to an extent of, stop right there. And I had no idea what went wrong, what I said, why I wasn't allowed to talk about how she had mentioned him before. And she just like stops me. So I just close my mouth, and I had no idea what had happened. Later, she goes, Colleen, she goes, I used to talk about him because I used to say, why would any parent name their son Frank if his last name was Plank? Why would you choose a name that rhymed with the last name? And she just thought it was like so crazy and like kind of ridiculous, and she loved the kid and didn't have anything against him, but she just thought it was kind of funny and kind of ridiculous, and she probably mentioned it like once or twice. It could have just been once, I don't know, but children will listen. And they will remember, and they will repeat it when you don't want them to. So careful the things you say, children will listen. That's story number one. Here's story number two. When Andy, my little non-listener, was a toddler, he was the chubbiest little boy ever. It was the best. And you know how just like chubby babies are just the best, all the rolls and just the chub, and you just squeeze them. It's like a big stress ball, and you hug them and cuddle them. There is nothing better than a chubby baby or a chubby toddler. So in our family, especially when the kids are little, chubbiness is praised. Chubbiness is a good thing. When you're chubby, that's awesome. That is a compliment. That is nothing to be ashamed of. You like be chubby and proud. And so even to this day, even with our girls growing into that preteen age, it's not that we like are like chubby is great, but like we talk a lot about chubby is not bad. Chubby is chubby, skinny is skinny. Who really cares? We're all different shapes and sizes. That's a whole other topic. We might get to that later. But when the kids were little, it was like the chubbier, the better. And we actually called Andy, we never called him Andy. We had all these nicknames for him. And one of the nicknames we had for him was Chubby Guy. And we just called him Chubby Guy all the time. If it was like, if he was doing something, I needed one of the girls like, oh, get that out of his mouth. I'd say, oh, go over to Chubby Guy and, you know, get it out of his mouth. It was just like his name. We loved how chubby he was. You tracking with me here? So my girls just thought chubby was an adjective, even like a good adjective, like you're pretty, you've got curly hair. So I got a note home in my daughter's notebook one day. I think it was kindergarten. And the teacher was very nice about it, but she let me know that Jana said something not nice to one of the other kids in the class today. And I can't remember if the teacher specified what it was or I had to, I think all she said was Jana said something that was not kind to one of the other kids. I spoke to her about it. She apologized and everything's okay, but I just wanted to let you know. And I'm reading this note like, oh my gosh, what did she say? I can't believe she said something mean. Oh my gosh. So I said, Jana, can you tell me what happened today? Did you say something not kind to one of the other kids? And she was like, I can't remember what this girl's name. Let's just call her Tiffany. It wasn't Tiffany. Let's just call her Tiffany. So she, I said, did you say something to one of the other kids that wasn't kind? And she was like, I called Tiffany a chubby guy. I said, you're a chubby guy. And I'm like, shoot. Because this girl, I knew who this girl was, and she was chubby, this cute, adorable kindergartner with the chubby cheeks and a little bit chubby body, but like in a cute way, you know, they're kids, you know, it's okay to be chubby. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I got myself into quite a pickle because I was freely using this term and not telling my kids, oh, don't say this about other people, because I just never really, I don't want to tell my kids that, oh, don't say this to other people because people think chubby is bad. It's just, it was a very weird kind of topic. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, okay, honey. And it was funny because it was a girl and she just said, you're a chubby guy. Like she didn't even understand like the difference between like a guy and a girl. She just thought it was just a silly term of endearment. That we used for our son who we love so much. And so she said, you're a chubby guy. And I don't know if this girl was actually upset about it or the teacher overheard it and just said, ooh, that's not kind, don't say that. It was just a sad situation all around because my daughter was made to feel like she did something wrong, which I don't feel like she did, although yes, let's address it just in case there was a misunderstanding. We want to be sensitive to the term in terms of what other people associate that with, if they associate shame with that kind of thing. But I just had to talk to my daughter and say, I know you didn't mean to be mean. I know you didn't mean to be unkind, but let's talk about what chubby means to some people. We had the whole conversation and I talked to her teacher and I kind of explained the situation. I was kind of embarrassed. I'm like, so we say chubby in a good way in our family. Chubby is a good thing. If you're chubby, that's great. That's cute. It's like calling somebody cute. Oh my gosh. So not only did she listen, but we kind of like, I mean, that wasn't just like a one-time thing. That was like that was a common phrase and a common thing that, so in terms of being a parent, just like careful what you say and careful like the terms that you use. yeah, I could go on because yeah, I'll stop there. Okay, so those are my silly stories. And now I have my story about Camden, which is actually really cute and kind of a silly story, but this just happened very recently. So Camden is 2.5. He's going to be 3 soon, so he's like 2 3/4. And he really listens, and he's just learning to talk, and he can say sentences and things like that. But he's at that stage where he'll say something, and like if it's something that we've heard him say before, we usually understand it. But if it's something new that he's saying, it's hard to understand him. So he's just at that stage where he's soaking everything in. Sometimes he repeats things and he'll say something silly or funny. We're like, oh my gosh, he's repeating something that we said. Like this morning, he's going, and it didn't even make any sense. I was asking him to do something, and he's going, it's not funny. I was like, I wasn't laughing. I don't know why you're saying that, but he just repeats all these things. And what's the other? Oh, the cutest one is, you know how kids go through these stages of like of the way that they say yes, or they give the affirmative. Sometimes kids will go through a stage where they'll say mm-hmm, like Camden was in a mm-hmm stage for so long, and then sometimes kids go through a yup stage where they'll say yeah, and now Camden's in a oh sure stage, and it's so cute. Camden, do you want to go to story time? Oh sure, mama. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. So he hears all these different ways to say yes, and he's trying them out, and oh, I just love it. So they are little sponges. And a couple of weeks ago, he started repeating something back to me, actually finishing my phrases. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you listen. So if you know me well, you know that I sing weird songs to my kids. You know that I have weird rhyming phrases that I say to my kids. Not weird, bad, just silly. And they change with every kid. I have tons of nicknames for my kids. And yeah, it's just crazy. We are a crazy little family. With Camden, I call him Booty. I call him Buddy, Booty, what else? I can't remember, all these little things. And then I have these little phrases that I say to him. I also tell him, because he has this hair that reminds me of like a coconut, the hair, the like coconut hair that's brown, it's kind of like scraggly and everything. And sometimes when his hair is all, when he wakes up or something, I'll tell him, I'll say he's a boo-boo bear I call him Boo-Boo Bear or Boo-Boo. And so I'll say, I've been telling him for quite a while since he's had this hair that he's a Boo-Boo Bear with coconut hair. And another thing that I say to him is that he's a crazy boy, but he brings me joy. And other things. And I'll say things like, you're a crazy man with a crazy plan. You're a silly man with a silly plan. Or if he's hungry, I'll say you're a hungry dude in a hungry mood. I love to rhyme. It is what it is. That's how I talk to my kids. And recently, which one was it? I think, I guess it was one of those. I said, I went to say it. I was just playing with him, and I said, sorry, I can't think of which one it was. I don't want to ruin the whole thing. I think it was you're a crazy boy, but you bring me joy. And so I went to say it, and I was like, you're a crazy boy, but you bring me, and before I could get the word out, he went, yoy! And I was like, oh my gosh, I've said this so many times that I didn't even realize, like, you're listening to the rhyme and the pattern, and you're just listening to what I say, that you can actually finish my sentence. And then I started trying out the other things that I say. I'm like, how much does he know? Can he finish these other ones? And so I said, you're a boo-boo bear with coconut. And he went, hail. And I was like, oh, you're so cute. And then I think those were the only ones I did. Then sometime after that, we were playing outside, and he pooped in his diaper. And I was like, okay, so I was going to tell him, you're a stinky man with a stinky plan as I brought him, that's just what I say, as I brought him up to change his diaper. And I grabbed him and I was joking around with him and snuggling with him. And I was like, oh, I'm like, you're a stinky man with a stinky. And I tried to let him finish the sentence. And he goes, poop. And I just thought that was the cutest thing because it didn't rhyme, but it totally made sense because he was like, I have a stinky poop. And so I laughed so hard that he thought, oh, well, if you like that, that's how I'm going to finish every rhyme you ever try from now on. So I was trying to show my mom how cute it was that he finished my cute sentences. You're a crazy man with a crazy plan. You're a boo-boo bear with coconut hair. You're a crazy boy, but you bring me joy. I tried to do it, and he's finishing everything with poop. You're a crazy boy, but you bring me poop. And the rest is history. Because then I'm like, I would laugh, and I was like trying not to laugh, and then if I didn't react, he would go, I said poop, Mom. So yeah. Then another thing that he said was I was bringing him upstairs, and I sometimes talk in this, like, when he's so cute that I can't even handle how cute he is, so I talk like this. I don't know if you ever do this to your kids or if this is really weird that I do it, but like when they're so cute, you're like, oh my gosh, you're so cute, like I'm gonna squeeze you, or like, what am I gonna do with it? What am I gonna do with you? And I guess I've said this to him so many times and I didn't realize that I did this. I'm carrying him upstairs and he probably said something adorable and I can't remember what it was, but I went, oh, you little, and he went, angel. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so cute. And it's what I was going to say. Good thing he didn't say poop. But it was just like, he just went, angel. And I was like, oh, you little angel. That's exactly what I was going to say. And I'm just like, oh. So on one hand, I felt all like proud of myself as a mom, like, look at me saying all these nice things to my kids and they're taking it in and everybody be like me. Yeah, that's not always the case. I won't go through all the not nice things that I've said to my kids that I hope they don't repeat. It's not anywhere to the point of abusive or anything like that, but I have moments because I am such my love language is words of affirmation, which is I'm a natural communicator. I use words. I love words. I love to write. I love to converse and chat, and I love the English language, how we can use words to communicate and everything and to express ourselves. So it can be a blessing and I can really communicate well. But I also, when I am not my best self, I can also use my words to hurt people or to say things that I'm feeling in the moment but are just not a kind thing, even towards my kids, if they're driving me nuts, or I use the word annoying, or it's just, this is the things that you just don't want to say to your kids that you do, and you're like, oh, I did not. And I'll say to Andrew, like, was that harsh? And he's so gracious with me because he just knows how hard I try. So he's like, no, that was fine. On occasion, he'll be like, yeah, that was a little. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I do to my kids? So I want to share that so you know that I'm not telling you, look at all these wonderful things that I'm putting in my kids' hearts and brains because I just say the most wonderful things to them. Yes, sometimes. And then there are some times where I just have diarrhea of the exhausted mom mouth, and it's not the most pleasant thing that comes out of my mouth. But all of that, especially what Camden was doing recently with the repeating things and finishing my phrases, it just kind of stopped me in my tracks, and I thought, wow, they really just soak in everything we say, even the things that we just say once. I would say especially the things that we just say once, because the things that we just say once are usually the things that we said it and we wish we could take it back and we don't want to say it again. As much as I was thinking, oh, it's so great that Camden has these little phrases, and I hope he grows up to remember all these wonderful things that I said. It's easy to say all the wonderful things to your little babies because they're just so wonderful at that age. Even when they throw tantrums, you still forgive them because they're so chubby and cute, chubby guy. But as your kids get older and they start to really drive you nuts and disappoint you in certain ways, like if you're like me and you try to communicate your disappointment or your feelings, or you just express yourself with words, I have to do what this song says. Careful the things you say, children will listen. And I have one child in particular who I've just kind of struggled with in terms of connecting with her and understanding her behavior, and trying not to overreact when she does something or says something that just like grates on my last nerve. And I have said things over the years that I just wish I could take back. And it's like the kind of thing where like if I did it all over again, like just knowing how I felt in that moment, I don't even know if I could do it a different way. I mean, probably like, I hope that I could, but it's like, I feel things very strongly, and I don't know why I'm going off on this thing, but like, I just know what it's like to use words that, I mean, not just kids, but like my husband or like anybody, where you use words, you're like, I didn't need to be that harsh. I didn't need to use that word. I could have done it a different way. And all of this to say that it really, and I think about this often, but just really recently, it's just been heavy on my heart that children are listening to the things that we say. So I want to just remind myself, whether we're starting today or you've been trying to do this for a while, or you've been struggling with this and you're like, I have been not nice to my kids, or I have been saying more negative things to them than positive things. If you are in that place, know that you are not alone. And even people that look like they're the most amazing moms who just pour wonderful things into their kids all the time, because you see them on social media. I have a feeling that some people that watch me from afar might think I'm a mom who just says all the right things to their kids. If you do think that about me, you are very wrong, because I do say nice things to my kids, but I have also said the not nice things that I wish I could take back and that I hope that they don't end up in therapy for. But there is just today is a new day, and tomorrow is a new day, and the next day is a new day. So I know that I want to speak to my kids. I want to speak about my kids, especially when they're within earshot, in a way that encourages them and reminds them of their value in my eyes, in their dad's eyes, in God's eyes, and builds them up. Now, of course, if your child does something that you need to have a conversation about, it's not like you can be like, well, that wasn't the best choice, but it's okay, sweetie, you're still wonderful. You need to have real conversations with your kids. You need to have real talk. You need to use real words. But in terms of our expressing ourselves when we are feeling heated and not happy, or just like exhausted, and I'm gonna read actually a Bible verse. So I haven't gone here on the TN Talk yet, but if you know me, you know I'm a believer. I'm a Christian. I serve Jesus Christ, and I believe that the Bible is our source of truth, and something that my husband, who is a youth pastor, has been talking about with his teenagers is he's been going through the book of James, and I think he's been going through the whole book. And James is my husband's favorite book of the Bible, so I know he's really enjoying it. So my husband and I have been talking a lot about the power of the tongue, and I know he's kind of talking about that with the, why am I not on the right page? Here we go. So this is from James chapter 3. The title of this passage is called Taming the Tongue. Now, this is like a really intense passage. James does not mince words when he speaks about taming the tongue and the power that the tongue has. I mean, he uses words like evil and things like that, like, because, when we say harsh words to anybody, when we speak harshly or we speak falsely or just accusatory about anybody, I mean, that can come from an evil place. So we need to keep our tongues in check. What a power, our little tongues, this tiny little muscle in our whole body, the power that we have. So I'm going to read down in verse, from chapter 3, verse, I'm going to go ahead and start. I was going to start later, but I'm going to start with verse 5. So just bear with me for a second. James chapter 3, verse 5. So also the tongue is a small member, yet it boasts of great things. How great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire. And the tongue is a fire, a world of unrighteousness. Ouch. The tongue is set among our members, staining the whole body, setting on fire the entire course of life, and set on fire by hell. Dang, this is intense. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and sea creature can be tamed and has been tamed by mankind, but no human being can tame the tongue. Can any one of us, any human being, tame our tongues in a way that we will always be able to say exactly what we want to say and have no regrets about what we say? It is a restless evil, full of deadly poison. Guys, are you hearing this? What is being said about the power of our words? With it, we bless our Lord and Father, and with it, we curse people who are made in the likeness of God. From the same mouth come blessing and cursing. My brothers and sisters, these things ought not to be so. Oh, my son's awake. I'm going to wrap this up. Does a spring pour forth from the same opening both fresh and salt water? Can a fig tree, my brothers, bear olives, or a grapevine produce figs? Neither can a salt pond yield fresh water. What James is saying, and I don't know if James is necessarily talking about what we say to our children. I think he is gearing more towards just our brothers and sisters, our peers, and more of like, I guess he's speaking more to adults. But I firmly believe that the lesson that we learn from the power of our tongue, from the capability of what our words and do to other people, how they land on other people, how they affect other people, whether it's your brother or sister in Christ, somebody at church, your a family member, a friend, your coworkers, whatever. This is also the effect we have on our kids, which is very humbling, very intense, and just reminds us of the immense responsibility we have as parents, or whatever role you play in a child's life, whatever kind of caregiving or mentorship, teaching or whatever role you play with kids, how our tongues and our words affect and stay with our children. Careful the things you say, children will listen. It sounded like my son was waking up, but I think that was just a little sound that he was making. So hopefully he'll give me a little while longer, because it's really not time for him to wake up from his nap. It's funny, before I started this, I was like, I really only have a few things to say. I feel like, is it okay if this tea and talk is only 10 minutes long? That's okay, right? Okay, well, we're going into about 40 minutes now, so the power of the tongue just keeps going. That's one of my downfalls too. Just tell me to shut up and end this video. I think that's pretty much all I want to say. I just want to encourage you that today is a new day. Say a new thing, or an old thing that you haven't said in a while, to your kids, to someone you love, that will encourage them and build them up. I feel like I'm gonna get emotional again. Why am I getting so emotional in these tea and talks? Okay, dads, if you're a daddy, I don't care if your daughter, and now my battery's dying. Dads, I don't care if your daughter's 2, 12, 22, or 42. Talk to your daughters. Tell them they're beautiful. Tell them they're wonderful. Tell them what a gift they are to you. This is something that my husband works on with our girls. If you know my husband, you know he's not like me in the sense that he is a man of few words. Yeah, we can talk and we have conversations for hours, but generally he's not the most verbally expressive guy. And so he really has to work hard at that with our kids. Now I'm the opposite. I'm so verbally expressive that I say lots of positive things, but then I can also, the diarrhea of the mouth thing. But he is not as much with the harsh words with the kids, but also struggles to make sure that he pours the positive words into our kids. So that's something that just over the years he has realized, like, he needs to actually, even though like he shows his affection and love for our kids in so many ways, we talk all the time, and he knows that it is something that he actually has to think about and continually work at to make sure he is verbalizing to not just our daughters, but all of the kids. But I do believe that you say different things, whether it's your daughter or your son. There are saying things, I love you and things like that. You're wonderful. I'm proud of you. But there are just differences, or the way that you say it, or the different kinds of conversations that you have, whether it's a mother to a son, mother to a daughter, father to a son, and father to a daughter. They're just different. There's just a difference. Also important. But dads, if you're a dad watching, first of all, can you tell me if you're a dad watching? Because I want to know if this is making any sense or helping in any way. But I just want to encourage you that it's not always easy for dads to communicate with their daughters and tell them those things. I mean, Andrew sometimes has time communicating with me, all like the lovey-dovey things. Like, he tells me he loves me all the time and stuff like that. But like little things that he's had to kind of work at over the years, because he knows that my love language is words of affirmation. And but it doesn't come naturally for him. So anyway, that's a whole other topic. We can talk about love languages. You want to talk about love languages another time? He has to really work at making sure, and sometimes I, as the one who like thinks of these things, like just this morning, I will encourage him to like, hey, just make sure you like say this to the girls. They don't have to know that I'm reminding him. When he says it to the girls, it is genuine from his heart. Sometimes he just needs help, like being like, hey, I know you're thinking this, but just say it out loud, because they don't know that you're thinking it. And he is so great in terms of like, he's not like, oh, I don't know what to say it, or like, don't tell me what to say. Like, he knows, like, I'm a dad raising daughters. I need all the help I can get. So the girls put clips in their hair this morning, and they wear uniforms to school. So it's not like they get dressed up. So it's not like we can be like, wow, that uniform looks great on you. It was the same uniform you wore like all week, but wow, you're really rocking it today. So it's not that kind of thing like doesn't really come up. And I'm not saying that dads need to just constantly praise their daughters' looks. No, but daughters are going to hear about their looks. They're either going to be told they're beautiful, hot, sexy, whatever men want to say to them, or they will be told the not so great things about their looks. They'll hear it all. They really will. So shouldn't the foundation of what these girls hear be from their daddy? Shouldn't they have the foundation of, it really doesn't matter what those teenage guys are saying or what those college guys are saying about me, whether it's good or bad. I've heard enough from my dad to know that I'm beautiful the way that I am. And anyway, all that to say that I just said to Andrew this morning, because I was so excited that the girls were putting these clips in their hair, because I bought them these clips and they weren't really wearing them. And they said they were going to wear their clips today. So I was like, yes, they're wearing their clips. And they put these clips in, and I was like, oh, that looks so cute. And then before Andrew took the kids to school, I was like, make sure you tell them that they look cute in their clips. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm going to. He was like giving me the thumbs up, like, oh yeah, already got it planned. I was like, okay, good. And so I'm sure he did when he brought them to school. And it's just like little things like that he's gonna send them off to school, and they're gonna go knowing that their daddy and their mommy said how cute they looked in their clips today. So whatever somebody says to them that day, they heard that first. Anyway, all of this to say, careful the things you say, children will listen, the good, the bad, the ugly. So let's pour all of the good that we possibly can. And I know we are overloaded with, but I am thinking about what's for dinner and grocery lists. And if you're a full-time working mom, or you are a part-time working at home mom, I hear that like we have things on our minds all the time. So it's just, we think these wonderful things about our kids, and sometimes we forget to say them. Say the wonderful things. Like something that I started recently with my daughters. We started doing these like special mom-daughter dates, and Andrew does like the dad-daughter dates, and we'll do it with our boys when they get older, but like this is just such a time. They're 9 and 8, and we just want to pour into them as they're getting into this like pre-teen kind of or tween age, that we are just, oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. We are just trying to pour all these things. So when my daughter, especially my oldest daughter, she comes down the stairs in the morning, I'll just say, hi, beautiful. And it's not that I'm praising her looks. It's just that I'm calling her beautiful because that's what I want her to know. Sorry, I don't know why I get so emotional with this stuff, but like when you have these babies who you have this responsibility for, and like, you know that you're not doing a perfect job, but you have to remind yourselves sometimes that in all the imperfections that we wish we could change, and all, I messed up today, and I lost it with the kids, and I said things that I shouldn't have said. Like, I'm just trying to find new ways to pour into them. And like my 5-year-old son, I mean, I'm like over the top with him because like there's something about a mother and a son where I'm just like, I just tell him how handsome he is all the time, and I tell him like that he's my best friend, and like I just love him so much. And he's at that age where I can feel him growing up. He's at that age where I still like help him, like give him baths, but it's like, oh gosh, like your body's gonna start changing soon, and we're not gonna have that closeness where like you can walk around naked and it's no big deal. And it's funny because I kiss my kids on the lips when they're really, really, really young. And for some reason for me, I don't know, and this is different for every parent. And some parents still kiss their kids on the lips when they're like grown adults. I have no judgment with that at all. Everybody just has their own thing. And but with my kids, for some reason, the way that it naturally goes with me, my husband has never kissed our kids on the lips, never. He kisses them all the time, never on the lips. And when the kids kiss him, he always like gives, my 2-year-old, he gives him his nose. So Camden always kisses his nose. That's my husband's comfort zone. And for me, like when they're babies, I kiss them on the lips. I kiss them all over their face constantly, but like the lips, oh my gosh. And then for some reason around like 4 or 5 years old, for me, naturally, I just gravitate towards the cheek, and I feel like that just feels more comfortable. And that's how it was with my girls, and it just transitioned out totally naturally. And with my son, this is so funny. He's about to turn 6, and he just loves to give me a big smooch on the lips. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with it, but like I can just, for me, it feels more natural to just like, you're starting to transition into that like you're growing up age, and I feel like I'm still gonna kiss you all the time, but thank you. I'm still gonna kiss you all the time, but let's transition more to like here and the cheek and stuff like that. And he refuses, to the point where he's like upset about it. So this is actually a thing. I'm actually trying to like work with him, and it's not because kissing your child on the lips past a certain age is bad. People do it, and that's fine. But for me, I feel more comfortable transitioning out of that and just kissing on the cheek, always showing affection, but in just like a moderation of it. So we have a deal now. I told him, at first I told him, like, when you turn 6, how about when you turn 6, like, I'll kiss you on the lips until you're 6, and then that will be like, you're a big boy, and then we can kiss on the cheek. And he's like, no, because he knows he's turning 6 really soon. And he just lost his first big tooth up here. I mean, his first baby tooth up on the top. He already lost his bottom teeth, and his other one is just barely loose. So he's got a good couple of months left of that. I said, how about when you lose your other top baby tooth, that's when we start kissing on the cheek. And he agreed to that. So we're doing lots of smooching on the lips for a while until that. And he makes it a point. Like if I'm not thinking I'm gonna go to kiss him on the cheek at bedtime, he's like, no. I still haven't lost this tooth yet. And he gives me these big pouty lips. And I'm like, okay, here you go. So anyway, I don't know why we are talking about kissing our children right now. This was supposed to be about talking to our children and using words around our children. But you know me, I can't stop talking. I am a woman of many words. And that is probably why I wanted to talk about this topic, that the things that we say, our kids listen and they repeat it and they take it in. So if you're like me and you've said the things that you wish you didn't say, two things. Number one, forgiveness and grace. I have many a time gone to my kids and said, I'm sorry I said that to you. I did not mean to say those words. It came out of emotion, and that's not actually how I feel, or whatever it was. And the amazing grace of Jesus, but also of our children that is such a mirror of the grace of God. But I have never, ever in my life of my many parenting mistakes where I have said something to my kids and they don't forgive me. Never, ever, ever. They are so quick to forgive and to show grace that it amazes me and it reminds me of our gracious God. And they just forgive, and they're like, it's water under the bridge, and I just love it. So all of that to say, your kid, whatever you've said to your kids that you wish you could take back, if you haven't talked to them about it yet, talk to them, whether it was yesterday, today, or like a year ago. Remember when I said that one thing? I don't know if you remember that, but I just really wish I had never said that, because I actually I think you're so wonderful, and I don't want to say those harsh words to you. And just say, will you forgive me for that? Then it's done, just like it's done. And with that said, make it a point to pour all the positive things into your kids. Tell your daughters they're beautiful, whether you're the mom or the dad. Tell your sons, tell all your kids, I'm proud of you, and look for those moments. And if you are like me and you have a bunch of kids and you have one of your kids, like, or more, it doesn't come as easy or as naturally, because maybe there's just been friction in the relationship for whatever reason. It just doesn't come as naturally. It's not always going to be easy. You think when you're pregnant, you're expecting your first child, like, all I'm gonna say are all the wonderful things because I just love this baby. Yes, we love our children, but life happens, and our human hearts and our human tongues, you heard what I read from the Bible. They can be pretty evil. We are going to mess up. So just pour as much positivity and good things, good words towards your kids as much as you can. When you pile all of that on, when we do slip up, because we're going to, it says right there in the Bible that we can't fully tame our tongues. There's just nothing we can fully do to know that for the rest of our lives, every word that we say will be perfect. But the more we focus on pouring the positive into our children and the people around us, if and when we do mess up, that won't land as hard when there's such a foundation of good, positive things. So I'm going to do something now that I have never done on a Tea and Talk, and I hope this is okay with you guys. I'm going to pray, because we read the word together, and I feel like it's just time to pray and ask God for some guidance with the way that we speak to our kids. I hope you're okay with that. That's what we're going to do. God, thank you for your word that speaks truth to us and reminds us that we are going to mess up because we are humans. Even though when we trust Jesus, we are washed by his blood and we are forgiven, as long as we are living on this earth, we're still going to mess up sometimes, and we're still going to wish that we could just go back and redo it. And God, I just pray that when those things happen, when we're talking to our kids or saying something near our children, God, I pray that you help us through those times, and you help us work through those times, that we can have open conversations with our kids, and help us show them that we want to repent of it or ask for forgiveness, and turn away from it. And God, also, please remind us of the value that our kids have in our eyes and in yours. And please help us to remember every day how important it is to just say those things to them that will lift them up, encourage them, and build up their confidence in themselves and in their relationship with us. And we just ask all these things in Jesus' precious name. Amen. All right. Thank you for staying with me this long. I will come back with another topic and try not to go quite this long. But thank you guys. Love you. Bye, everybody.